This is a story about a boy who walks to school and lives with a father who makes an interesting rule. His father wants the boy to tell him what he sees as he walks outdoors in the cool autumn breeze. So on a particular day, the boy sees a horse, pulling a wagon on Mulberry Street, of course. But the boy is quite witty and decides to expand the tale to tell his father, so old and so frail. In the boy's mind, the story becomes grander and grander, with giant beasts and large parties, and even a commander. The sight is so big, outspoken, and played, to the point where it becomes nearly a city parade. When the boy arrives home, he is ready to share his grand story of lies, without whim, without care. However, when he sees his father's face, the boy loses the force and simply tells him that he just saw a wagon and horse. Behind all the rhymes and great images, the commentary is quite strong in this story. First, the interaction between father and son at the beginning of the story reveals how parents want children to share what they feel and see, but it's sometimes the parents who are not quite prepared to accept and understand how children view the world. For example, let's say a child is given an ice cream cone and then it falls to the ground. The child then cries and makes a big fuss. As a parent, it seems that the child is overreacting since the ice cream cone can be replaced. However, from the child's perspective, perhaps that was the only ice cream cone, not in the entire universe, but for them. That they valued the ice cream cone not because it was ice cream, but because it was given to them by a parent. And so exists a duality of perspective. There is also societal commentary in the repeated line, "a story that no one can beat," with the emphasis on no one. Although it is not stated in the story, the boy seems to be competing against an imaginary other in the game of storytelling. But let's talk about the storytelling process that this story demonstrates. One of the most stunning moments of self-awareness for the boy is when he begins to elaborate on his story, but then adds new elaborations, not for the sake of making the story grander, but for purposes of practicality and realism. For example, he imagines the cart being pulled by a reindeer, but then reasons that reindeers would rather pull a sled, and so he changes the cart to a sled. But why does the boy not tell the father the story at the end? Perhaps the author is saying that it is not necessary. If this story is an example of the storytelling process, where an author is provided an idea and then must elaborate upon it for the purposes of telling a story, maybe the publishing or sharing of the story is more overrated than we think. That it's the creative process that is more important and should be valued higher than simply telling the tale. And this is an analysis that no one can beat, of Dr. Seuss's And to Think That I Saw It on Mulberry Street.